In May 2014, you'll get the chance to vote for new members of the European Parliament. Last time we heard from the political parties in Wales. This time it's England. Joining me in the European U studio, Liberal Democrat leader in Europe, Fiona Hall, her Conservative counterpart, Syed Kamall, and Labour's Deputy Leader, Claude Moraes. A little earlier, I also spoke to UKIP the UK Independence Party's Deputy Leader, Paul Nuttall, and we'll hear from him in a little while. But first of all, I wanted to turn to each of you here in turn. Thanks for joining me. Briefly, what have Liberal Democrat MEPs been doing for England since the last election, over the last 5 years?
What we've been doing most of all is working for a stronger economy and for growth and for jobs. And one way we've done that has been very important is that we've pushed for a smaller budget, but within that we've got more money for research and innovation and for small businesses. And I'm really pleased that we've managed to achieve that.
OK, Syed Kamall.
Well, the Conservatives, whether it be the Prime Minister back in the UK or MEPs here, have pushed for a smaller budget when other parties said it couldn't be done. We've taken Britain out of the disastrous Euro bailout mechanism, saving taxpayers millions. And at the same time, we've made sure that we've stood up for jobs in different sectors, especially financial services, not just in my constituency of London, but right across the UK.
Claude Moraes.
For Labour, it's about jobs and growth. It's about people's living standards. So it's about the European Youth Jobs Guarantee. Youth unemployment is acute in Europe, but also in the UK. And it's about ensuring that cost of living back home becomes a European Union priority as well, within the budget and in everything else that we do.
Well, UKIP, as I said, I spoke a little earlier to Paul Nuttall. I started by asking him what they have to show, what UKIP MEPs have to show for their last 5 years.
Look at the opinion polls. If you look at the opinion polls in the UK now, the vast majority of people want a referendum, majority of people want to leave the European Union, and we've come here and we've acted as the eyes and the ears of the British people, and we've reported back, and I think the fact that we've driven public opinion in this area is the great achievement of UKIP MEPs.
So going into this election, what's your big message? What's the big issues for UKIP?
Well, our messages are quite simple. Control our own borders. Let's not be paying £53 million a day into the European Union, and let's ensure that the people who make the decisions that affect our lives are the people we elect in Westminster, not those who sit unelected up in the Berlaymont up the road. But the overall message is, let's leave the European Union.
And then moving on to Fiona Hall to the big election issues, what would you say are those big concerns and the main issues going into this election in 2014?
I think it's going to be about the role of the UK in Europe, and the Liberal Democrats are very clear on this. We're the party of in, because we know that being in Europe is about being in work. Other organisations like the CBI, businesses, they all support us. We know that 80% of businesses know it's important, and there are 3 million jobs linked to our membership of the European Union. So this is something we absolutely have to fight for. OK, Fiona Hall says the big issue will be the role of the UK in the EU. What about for you, Claude Moraes, the main election issues?
Well, I'm very conscious that people are concerned about what our role is in Europe. And what we've got to say is that we're trying to deliver in Europe for Britain, for British people. I mentioned the European Youth Jobs Guarantee, £200 million for some of the acute problems that young people face. Even if you're a young graduate in my city of London, you're going to find difficulty in getting the job opportunities. They need to know that the European Union is for them, that it's relevant to them. You know, if their mobile phone charges are cut, that's something that happened because the European Union is working together for a reason, that's something that we're doing because the European Union is working multinationally. All of these issues need to be relevant back home. So we want to concentrate on what is practical about the European Union to win the argument, not to just win it on theoretical basis, but to actually say it's a practical thing for you in your own home, for your cost of living.
Syed Kamall, practical and relevant, the European Union. Well,
it's quite clear that many people in my constituency and in the United Kingdom believe that Europe's not working and it desperately needs reform. And actually, when I speak to colleagues from other EU countries, they believe exactly the same thing. And for us, while we see some parties sort of giving up on Europe or others giving in, for us, we want to give the British people a choice.
I mean, you have a problem in your party, don't you, come this election, in that the right-wing vote faces a choice between the UK Independence Party on the one hand and you on the other. Isn't that going to knock your support?
Well, I mean, UKIP are great for YouTube, but not necessarily great for the UK. And what's important for us is that we show that we can actually deliver. UKIP can bang on as much as they like about change and reform, and actually they just want to take us out. They've given up. We're talking about meaningful reform. We've cut the budget when UKIP and other parties said we couldn't do that. We've taken Britain out of the bailout mechanism when others said you couldn't do it. And we've made sure we stood up for jobs in London and across the UK when UKIP has simply sometimes not even turned up for the vote.
Fiona Hall, what are your prospects and your party's prospects come this election? There are Lib Dems that seem to be talking of defeat already.
I think that's very surprising, because what we know is that now that we have started to get our message across about how important it is for jobs in this country that we are part of the European Union, we see that the responses of people and the understanding of people in the polls is coming up, and there's a lot of people out there who know that we are the only party, which is the party of in, and is making that case. So we are optimistic.
Well, UKIP's also not had a smooth smooth ride, I should say. A number of their MEPs have defected or been pushed out of the party over the last 5 years. So I asked Paul Nuttall whether they can be taken seriously.
Well, look, we've gained, we've lost people change parties, that's the nature. We've gone through the most stringent test that any party, I think, in the history of politics has ever been through to ensure that we get the right people next time round. I think, and I really hope, that the majority of British MEPs that come here after the European elections, the most will be UKIP, and I can guarantee you these people are top draw and they won't be going anywhere.
So how is UKIP going to fare in these elections? Are you going to be the biggest group, do you think, coming back after May?
We hope so. We envisage, if you look at the opinion polls for European elections, we're doing very well indeed, and we're going to run the biggest campaign that this party's ever run. We'll be financially backed. I think it's going to be exciting times. I think what we're going to try to do is to turn the UK purple, and hopefully, and we're looking forward to it, we can go on and we can win these elections.
And Claude Moraes, turning to you, what are the chances for Labour in this election?
Well, we're cautiously optimistic about our chances, because what we're trying to do is we're saying that we want a pro-European platform, but we want reform in Europe as well. We're very conscious that people want to see a case for Europe being made. Yes, we want to be the party of in. Fiona's absolutely right. We have to make a case for Europe, but you can't just make that on theory or just say that Europe's great. You have to show people how it works. For example, if you have policies on the environment, on the economy, you have to say why Europe is involved in that issue in the first place, why it's not a national issue. So, for example, in banking regulation, it's not got to interfere with the banks. It's got to be there because of fairness, because it's going to, in the end, make things fairer and more productive. So on banking regulation, on fairness, we were involved in these policies in the last few years because we thought they were right for Britain. And I think if people see that, then they'll say that, yes, Europe was right to be involved, and that's where we want to go in the future.
So, Kamal, would you agree with that?
I think it's important that we make the case for reform. And rather than just accept everything that comes out of Brussels, if you like, actually fight back and stand up for British interest. So once again, on the budget, people said to us, there's no way you can cut the EU budget. I was told that by MEPs of all parties right across the spectrum, and we delivered that. People said, you can't extricate Britain from this bailout mechanism. It's part of being European. Eventually you'll have to join the euro. We've made it quite clear to our counterparts in other countries that Britain is not joining the euro, and it would have been disastrous had we joined the euro, and only countries within the euro have to stand up for it. And the other thing we said is that it's important that you don't forget about savers and pensioners when you're doing all this financial regulation.
And we're going to have to leave it there. That's all we have time for. The European elections will take place on the 22nd of May 2014. Details on all the UK's current MEPs can be found on our website. We've now heard from parties in Wales and England. Next time round, we'll turn our attention to Northern Ireland. But thanks very much to my guests for joining me.